Okay, let's get started. And this is a panel about sales. So I thought we could get started by each person giving us your introduction as if you're in the elevator and you're kind of giving your best introduction / kind of sales introduction or elevator pitch. I'm going to start with you, Christopher Martin.
Wow, starting with me.
Yeah.
I always feel odd following anything that Lauren says because it's always saying
That's trouble.
I really appreciate the opportunity to fall right on my face right off the beginning. But I think my name is Chris Martin. I have over 2 decades, which ages me, of experience in the greater human capital world. After spending 21 years at the Randstad companies, most recently kind of leading the sales in North America in the technology and engineering vertical. For the last 2 years, I've been the vice president of strategic resourcing at Worldwide Technology. And it's interesting because I'm not actually in the sales function today. I'm responsible for our global external workforce and how we deliver and then engage with our customers. So I'm fortunate enough to have seen kind of both sides of the fence, and just excited to be here amongst some wonderful minds in the industry. Lauren, I love the New Year's resolution, or lack of New Year's resolution.
There you go.
And we've all talked about this at length. It's something that's really cool that she does, and I might start emulating it with my family if I could ever get them to sit down together.
That is the hardest part. It's hurting butterflies for sure.
Yeah, totally. That's so great. Thanks, Chris, and thanks for being here. Casey, you're next.
Well, I am the stepdad to Justin Timbergoat. And joking. No, Chris, one, I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful to spend time with such a fantastic panel. And I feel like I've gotten to know each one of you in a different way. Marcy and I led a mastermind. I've met Lawrence, AKA Elaine, crazy, smart, talented entrepreneur. Then I got a chance to meet Chris through multiple people. He was gracious enough to spend time on my podcast, which is called the Quarterback Dadcast, where I get free therapy every week talking to dads. But I spent 20 years at Kforce, seller, moved into an executive role, and then left to write a book called Win the Relationship, Not the Deal. And then speaking and coaching found me. I did not plan on doing this, but it is, I feel like, my calling. And I help companies unlock the power of humility, vulnerability, and curiosity relating to leadership and relationship building, and really trying to get people out of their own head, keep things simple, and then really make sure you believe what you do matters to start each and every day. So that's what I do.
Shout out to Casey's book. I listened to it. Fantastic. Lots of really great examples, and many coming from the staffing industry and come from his experience at Kforce. All right, LJ, Lauren Jones.
Oh my goodness. Well, I am so honored to be here. So this is, Marcy, Chris, Casey, Edwin, you're awesome. So I'm just excited to be here. My name is Lauren Jones. I'm the CEO and founder of Leap Consulting Solutions. I've been in the industry for, like you, Chris, my age myself, I'm older than dirt. I've been in the industry for a little over 26 years in almost every capacity, but I've spent the last better part, about 12 years in all things technology. And my firm does 3 things and 3 things really well. We'll help you from an agnostic, neutral point of view, build your tech stack. We'll help you with business process change management, and then we'll make sure that your largest investment, second only to your people, is adopted through good training practices. And so I am passionate about technology, equally as passionate about goats, i.e. Justin Timbergoat. And if you're not listening to JT's new single, Selfish, you are missing out.
Affiliate link provided. Okay. And then Marcy, who's having some audio issues. So she said, can you make sure to point to me? So I'm pointing to you, Marcy. It's your turn to introduce yourself now.
I am doing a great job of reading the closed captionings at the bottom. I'm so glad to be here. I'm missing a little bit on the banter because my word of the year was something I was going to share, but the real world right now is calling it audible. So I am reading. And so thank you so much. I am Marcy Stout. I have 2 companies, Revel Coach and Revel Search, committed to attracting and retaining top talent. My first company, Revel Coach, we really work with customers to solve 3 problems. First is building programs around culture so employees can thrive. And the second is growing revenue. And the third is burnout. So as way of introduction, we built Revel Coach basically on my personal professional story. I was with the Legis Group for 22 years, primarily with tech systems. And at the 8th year, I was promoted to being vice president. And I ran a region of about 350 million. And at that stage, I was the first and only female vice president. So fast forward for 8 years with that kind of honor as the only female vice president, I was navigating a lot of promotions where I was running their marketing and strategy when it was about 6 billion. I was having first, second, third kids. And so Revel Coach was dedicated to the professionals that have big corporate goals, and then they also don't want to sacrifice personal time and quality time at home or wellness. So that's where Revel Coach comes in. And then our other company is Revel Search, and we just launched that last year. I have a passion for staffing. I love this industry, and it really was from client demand of wanting to both attract and retain top talent.
And great content and great models that Marcy, uses to help staffing leaders and executives of all types to kind of do their best and feel their best and find purpose in their lives. Great intros. So I'm Edwin Jansen. I'm the founder and I guess the CEO of the Fuse Cooperative. We're the staffing industry's first and only platform cooperative, which is a very new kind of business model. Essentially, we are a legal co-op of staffing firms that has acquired the world's largest sub-vendor VMS. You might know Jan's previous company was called Gustav. Chris Martin and the gang over at WWT use Gustav. So we essentially, Fuse is a collection of staffing agencies that partner together to be more efficient. So, one side would have a job order, but maybe not the kind of specialization around that particular competency. So they can partner with another Fuse member to actually do the delivery, and then we help to manage the revenue splits. So it's a much more efficient way of growing. You can actually grow your business without hiring and adding recruiters, which is something everyone's trying to do these days. So that's me. Okay, we're going to start with the very first question I'm going to ask you, Casey, because you're all about relationships. So it's such a competitive market these days. It's a very tough market. Client relationships more important than ever. You wrote a whole book about this. So give us your best advice, kind of in a tidbit for growing strong client relationships.
I think I wish I would have learned, if I could start over my career at age 22, I would have learned about the power of curiosity. I think so many companies and sellers, they get into tell mode. They get into like talk first. They get into like say all these things they want to pitch, and they don't slow down to think about what problems exist, what problems do we solve, how do we solve them differently or better, where's our proof. And so like the art of storytelling and relationship building is missing right now. That the lack of listening in relationship building is missing right now. People love to hear things, but then people want to talk about themselves. Mm-hmm. I think the power back to curiosity, I think it's just gold. And you look about people back from Socrates to Walt Disney to Ben Franklin, curiosity has been around for years, yet we don't use it. And it blows my mind. And so like, as I think about growing relationships and teaching people, it's about the questions you ask, because when we ask great questions and you make people think, you're much more memorable versus memorizing a 48-page slide deck and telling your boss, man, I killed it, Chris. I told them everything about WWT, they love me, yet they blacked out and fell asleep at the minute 38 mark and they forgot your name when you left.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I think if there's any advice I'd give people right now is like really make sure you're slowing down to think about thoughtful questions. And when you start each meeting, think about what's most important to the customer or the prospect versus why you're there. Just be grateful for their time, but be really looking to learn about their business and what they want to do. And because I think once you learn, then you're able to tell a much better story to build that relationship with the prospect. Yeah.
And Casey, you sign off all of your emails with stay curious. And it always reminds me to stay curious. And I remember I think there was a study by that AI sales company Gong, where they said, what was the most kind of best predictor of sales success? And it was the amount of time that the customer is talking versus the amount of time the rep is talking. The less the rep is talking, the better the chances that they get a sale. Anyone else from the panel before we move on to the next topic just want to comment on the power of relationships and kind of how to forge great relationships? No? Okay. I'm going to point at Marcy. Marcy's on my side. I don't know. But Marcy, I'm going to ask you this question next. Hopefully you can hear me. What makes a compelling value proposition that really resonates with IT clients and leads to successful sales? Go ahead.
Thank you for the question. I'm assuming it's on IT value prop. For anyone that's joined this conversation, I'm confident you know the basics that people buy from people that they trust can solve their biggest problem. And at that fundamental level, I'm going to speak from that knowledge that we all share, where we can kind of make three kind of opportunities to make that happen and often some mistakes. So the first of which is we assume we know the client's problem. So when you're talking to somebody, go deep and really understand their problem, not just because you heard it from one of their peers or one of their another client down the street is having that same problem. But when you truly understand that client's problem, you start building trust. And then the second thing is when you articulate how you specifically solve that problem better than your competition, you do it in such a way that they're like, not only does she get the problem, but she knows how to solve the problem. And then the third step is that you have to get away from the sales process as quickly as possible by sharing specific case studies and examples with statistics or any information of where you've solved that problem before. Mm-hmm. And so the reason why I like to say these three things is, first of all, you know, the story of like a salesperson asks the client, what keeps you up at night? You want that client, when they wake up in the middle of the night thinking of that problem, they quickly shift to Marcy or or the person's company can solve this problem. And when they go to the office the next day, they're not only speaking on your behalf, but they're away from the sales process and they start saying, and this is how this company has done it. So you want to have that much type of advocacy when you are adding value and talking with your customers about how you can solve their biggest problem. So no more questions on that one because I can't hear you, but I'll read,
right.
I'll read
so
it.
Good. I can't believe that we're pulling this off without Marcy even hearing us. So I can say anything that I want right now about Marcy and she's not going to hear me, which is a fun thing that I may do later. But it just reminds me of, I'm a marketer. The very best book I ever read on marketing is called Story Brand by Donald Miller. And the concept that he utilizes is this hero's journey idea. Everyone's on their own hero's journey, and the business or the salesperson is the guide. The customer is the hero. And when you're saying, I've climbed this mountain and looks like you're climbing a similar mountain, I can help you get there. And you're sharing your stories and your personal experiences to help them get to where they're going. It's just a really, really great concept to keep in mind when it comes to value prop. So next question's for you, LJ. What are the key trends and developments that are driving revenue in the IT staffing industry, and how can people take advantage of these kind of latest trends and developments?
Well, so a couple things, and we have to use technology to help enhance these things. So you talk about the hero's journey and why do people connect with a story like that? And it's primarily because of authenticity. It's no different when you're seeing tools. And last year I was so upset because I built this beautiful keynote about, you know, doing more with your technology investment. I got to do that keynote once because what was I talking about all year? AI. All of my keynote, every single keynote was about AI. So, you know, what's developing, what's working is we can now do more with fewer resources, but with great power comes great responsibility, just like Spider-Man, right? We have to take that authenticity that, you know, we may be known for and create stickiness and create relationships by leveraging technology. And so, you know, I think that trend, I hate a buzzword. I'll use the word hate, and I never let my kids use it when they were younger, but buzzwords drive me crazy. So it's really important not to get enamored by all the shiny objects out there from a technology perspective, and really create a strategy. And so, you know, to drive revenue, leveraging technology, something like AI and automation will allow us to do more, to do more with less, but we cannot ignore the relationship factor in this. We are still in the human capital industry. And so, you know, I don't think I've gone a keynote without impressing upon the importance of authenticity, transparency through your messaging. But automation and AI are going to continue to be fierce revenue drivers.
Yeah, totally. What I would say, and I agree with everything you just said there, Lauren, is that AI is this big buzzword and it's an amorphous thing, but there are a million different tools. There's ChatGPT right in front of you, and just experimenting and trying and getting demos and just exploring this world is the thing that has given me the most benefit. And when in doubt, go to ChatGPT and actually ask it for help on how to navigate.
Yeah, ask it what it's good at.
Yeah, it'll tell you.
It'll tell you.
Yeah, totally. Chris, so what specific sales techniques or approaches have you seen? And, you know, the reason why it was so great to have you kind of representing in a way the client side is like, what have you seen working out there? What would be your advice from that side of the aisle for potential like salespeople?
Yeah, I think everyone hit on it so far. Relationships matter. Understanding who you're talking to, understanding what they want to talk about matters so much. So really driving yourself to a place where you might be uncomfortable to make someone else comfortable really makes a big difference, right? I think back to just my technical recruiting days and what made the candidate that I was speaking to on the other side of the phone. There was no Zoom back then, right? I don't think, I think we were still using handheld camcorders.
Fax machines.
Right?
Fax me your resume.
Fax me your resume and I'll sign the deal on a pink sheet, right? Or a triplicate. I'm sure Marcy had the triplicates at Tech, but just like we did at Sapphire. But the relationship matters. So like understanding where they came from, the path that someone took to get there helps you frame questions and conversations that you're going to be able to have with them that are going to mean more to them than they are in the moment. Like everyone gets a call from a salesperson. If you are in technology and you are representing an organization under any circumstance, you're going to get a call from an IT staffing salesperson at some point, right? I think that makes a big difference when you understand something either about them or about their company to differentiate yourself in the moment. So my big thing is you're like, do research before you make a phone call. Like, I'm not saying you need to know everything about everyone, but make a connection, make someone feel comfortable with you, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable. I think that's a big opportunity that people just don't understand. Like, if I get someone calling me and they start telling me all about them and all about their company, and they don't know anything about me or about WWT, man, that's a tough thing for me to get over. Understand who we are so you could position yourself in the right way.
Yeah, very good. And I see you nodding over there, Casey. Anything to add to that?
I love what he said. And it's funny, sometimes people in this journey we're on, like, well, it's different now. Really? Because the same things I wrote about and Win the Relationship, Not the Deal, worked in 2000 when I started in the dot-com crash. It worked in 2008 when the world was ending. It worked in 2013 when the world was really ending. It worked in 2020 when I started a business in the global pandemic during social unrest. It still works, everybody. And it's the number of messages I get on LinkedIn from people telling me you're a coach, Casey, we're going to help you make $648 million by following this 3-step plan. I'm like, no, you're not. Trust me, because I'm not going to call you back. It's so annoying. Just ask me a question about me. And so like one of the things Marcy and I we learned from the fantastic John Kaplan team, this framework called TED-based questions, which is tell me, explain, describe. As you think about sales processes, everybody, use open-ended questions to learn more about them. And even if it's one thing, like Chris said, you don't need to, I'm not saying memorize the 10K and give a 48, a massive presentation, but like if someone's from a town you're from, if someone has a college, if someone's news in the business, that still works. I do it every day and it works. So I think I would just encourage people, like, start with believe what your company does and believe in yourself. And if you don't, figure out ways to work with your leader to build that confidence. But from a sales techniques perspective, it's just follow a process, but lean back in. I guess all roads going back to curiosity with me. But I think those, like Chris said, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, doing research, asking these questions. The other thing that I've found success with, and it took me a long time to realize this, is show up with vulnerability. Start with being vulnerable. I find that vulnerability is like a leadership aphrodisiac. If you show up there and you're like, here's what I don't know, here's what I don't understand, here's what I'm nervous about, here's what I'm like those open-ended questions when there's vulnerability connected to it, as opposed to I know everything and I'm going to sell you this and it's always going to work. I think just gives you much more credibility. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the next question of Marcy, and maybe she's gonna read her closed captioning and hopefully understand. We're gonna start pointing to her.
All right, so priorities.
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay, you already know the question, but hold
so
on.
Fun.
Let me ask it so that they know what question you're answering. So, what priorities should IT staffing executives have to maximize revenue and profitability during this tough market? Go.
All right, so maximizing revenue during the downturns or something like that. What to prioritize?
Yeah.
Shortest answer is people. Always wins. Downturns, upturns. If your top performers feel and know they will be successful with you, it always works. It's a formula that is timeless. And I will say right now, just going out and starting my own staffing company last year, I was amazed by all the technology that's out there that makes recruiting so much easier for candidate experience, for recruiting experience, sales experience. It is amazing what technology can do. So for my first move, I engaged with Lauren to give me some guidance on it. And I will say I have a client that in the first downturn in the 2020, they went all in on their people, all their money, all their chips went to their people, and it really worked. And right now, they also are the type to engage it with Lauren's company to be like, what else is out there to make us win faster for our clients while the client and consultant experience is superior. So I just want to say invest in the people and invest in the technology to make it easier for those people to win. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Lauren for your answer.
Well, I can't have, I can't have change without the people, right? So what my advice to, business owners is you have to embrace change. But in order to embrace change, you have to create a culture of change. And that requires inspiring your people to do so and putting them first. So these two things are totally interconnected. But, my advice to agencies is look, Claude, I'll give you a good example. Claude is an AI tool that we talk about a lot. And at the beginning of the year last year, it could take in about 200 words. It can now read The Great Gatsby twice and picked out one different word in the book in 22 seconds, which is about 75,000 words. So in this span of time, which is less than a year, AI has advanced, incredibly. And we're finding all of these, little co-pilots everywhere and new technology everywhere, but you cannot do that without your people and without people embracing that. So, these are your two largest investments, your people and your technology. And so you have to nurture those. And then, retention is a big thing and you can leverage technology to do so. So keeping the customers you already have, keeping the candidates that you already have. We often, we do a post and pray sort of methodology when we get a new requisition. And what we should be doing is looking, at and utilizing our database. So, people, but you also need to embrace change because technology is not going to stop. And if you're resistant to that and you've created a culture of resistance, you will be left behind.
Yeah, I love these answers. I read somewhere recently that the majority of staffing firms last year did layoffs. And when you do a layoff, that sends shockwaves of fear across all of the employees in your organization. And you cannot do your best work when you're afraid. And so to me, that combination of using technology to automate the things that is not meaningful work for people so that your best people can do more of the people stuff, the more of the connection with other people. Recruiters still need to talk to candidates. It's a huge decision to take a job. You want a person talking to a person. Salespeople and account managers need to talk to your clients, and you want to use AI and everything to automate everything else. But it is definitely about people. I absolutely love that. Okay, Casey, when we're thinking about targeting clients, potential clients, what should we keep in mind? How do we figure out who are the best fits for our unique value proposition as IT staffing firms?
Well, I will say I'm gonna agree to disagree on the word unique. I think there's nothing unique about the staffing industry. I think there's nothing unique. We think there's stuff unique, but there's not, because we all do essentially the same thing. What makes us different is our comparative differentiation and our holistic differentiation, how you make people feel. But I think like one simple approach that hopefully people can use as a takeaway that I used, I still use, is that I got taught that I think still works to this date, is just a simple way to like put your number of clients or prospects into like 4 buckets. A lead is just a name, a company name. Do I know if they use this or not? I have no idea. The next phase would be a target. I know these people use contractors or consultants or staffing because I talked to a consultant, my neighbor works there, my kid's soccer coach is a hiring manager, whatever it may be. A customer is the next one up. They're currently giving us money. They're paying us services for what we do. And then the last would be a key account, someone who spends north of $1 million or has more than potentially, let's call it 10 contractors on billing. And the goal in that process is get people to go from leads to targets to customers to key accounts. By the end of, you get more experience, and all of a sudden now you're spending more time on just customers and key accounts, and you're now growing those accounts. Trying to build out org charts, trying to make sure that you're staying curious with what other new things are coming up. And I found that doing that is helpful. The other thing I'd make sure as leaders, if you're on the call, don't just assume and tell your salespeople that they're missing out on all this data and all these opportunities if you haven't inspected and actually talked to the client yourself. For example, if you're going after, let's say I'm going after WWT, and I'm telling my staff, Marcy's my salesperson, I say, hey, Marcy, we're missing out on all this stuff on WWT because they have 5,000 consultants there. But what happens if 3,500 of those consultants are not what we do? Maybe they're 3,500 are offshore. Well, now it's 1,500 is our market. Mm-hmm. So let's make sure we're really clear on what is our market, who we're going after, why we're going after it. And I would inspect that often internally, but also don't be afraid to ask your client externally. What are they seeing? What do they think we do? Because if you don't slow down to make sure the client is truly can tell the same story you're telling, you both are going in separate ways, and it's going to cause for a lot of dysfunction.
Yeah. I love that you push back on the idea of a unique sales value proposition for staffing firms. So at Fuse, our purpose is to help staffing firms to specialize and then cooperate for areas outside of their specialization. And at one point last year, I needed to look at literally hundreds of staffing company websites because we were doing some prospecting campaigns. And I could tell you 99% of staffing company websites say the same thing. And unfortunately, they say that they can pretty much do everything. We do contract and perm staffing and IT and financial and blah, 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 and everything. We do everything. And what that tells the customer is you do nothing. But then meanwhile, every staffing firm is probably really, really, really good at one thing. Really, really, really good at it. So just put all your eggs in that basket and go and find people who need that one thing. Specialize, please specialize, and don't say, and we can do everything else too.
Give us the exclusive, Edwin. Give us the exclusive.
Yes. Well, yeah, I went to a marketing mastermind in March of last year, and there was one phrase that stuck. Well, there were two phrases that stuck with me. One was, "She who has the most confidence wins the debate," but the second one was, "The more niche, the more riche." Right. So the more niche you are, the more rich you will be. And it has stuck with me ever since that there's nothing wrong with specialization. No. We do a very, very specific, thing in staffing. And I think that's okay. Because people are going to come, you'll be the prescription for what ails them.
Yeah, totally. Okay, Chris, well, you work for a $19 billion company, and I used to work in a very similar industry. I know you've got really large customers, you've got small customers, you're a large customer yourself, then you deal with lots of staffing firms that are small and medium. So I'm just curious for you, like, how do you kind of view how it's different to sell to really large customers versus to SMBs, and how should our staffing firms kind of think about the different market types of really small customers, mid-size, and enterprise customers?
Yeah, I think that brings me right back to what Casey was talking about a little bit ago. Inspect what you expect, right? I worked with a guy named Jimmy Fabiano, who's I think at Bullhorn now. And he used to say that to me all the time. Inspect what you expect, C-Mart, right? Like, don't just assume something's going to be there. Don't just assume that 5,000 contractors are 5,000 of what you do, right? Your market share, your market technology share might only be 500 of those 5,000. So understand what you're going for first and build. And if you don't understand it, learn how to, and really push that narrative. Challenge your teams, challenge your account management teams and your organizations to actually build a business case on why they want to tackle those customers. I'm not a big believer in the spray and pray mentality. If I pick up the phone and make 600 phone calls and I can get one of them to work, I'd rather make some targeted phone calls inside of an organization that I know could utilize my services. Yeah. If you read someone, WWT is the largest minority-owned company in the world. Like, understand that. Like, when you call into us, like, understand who we are at our core. And if whether you're an SMB or you're one of the big, 5, right, or 6, you have to understand what makes you tick inside of our organization. And you could figure that out real quick by just going to our homepage and just reading a couple articles, or if you can align with a great place to work, if you can align with a diversity strategy, that makes a big difference to the people that you're talking to. When I get excited and when I get calls from vendors, it's because they've done research, right? Like Casey, I'm like you, I get more LinkedIn messages a day than I could possibly keep up with. The ones that do grab my attention are usually very specific about WWT or something our founder or our executive leadership is doing out in the marketplace. So I think just really understanding, who you're selling to makes a big difference. So continue to expect what you expect. And I think you'll be able to really push whatever narrative you want to push while understanding how it makes sense in someone's ecosphere.
I still remember really well the first conversation that we had, Chris, after we had acquired Gustav. You've been a Gustav customer for like 5 years or something. Yeah. And you pretty quickly right away were sharing with me how WWT buys, how you look at, what your contracting process is like. And you kind of shared a lot about the purchasing process. And I'm just curious, how do you feel when salespeople ask you about how you buy, how you work together, how you like to partner? How do you feel about those kinds of questions?
I am not a big believer in keeping secrets, right? It has to be a two-way relationship. The first phone call with you is a little bit different because we had an existing relationship. Yeah. I don't know if I'm spilling the secret sauce on the first conversation with everyone, but I do believe that you shouldn't be withholding what could possibly make sense, right? And I bring that up because I want to see the answer back. I want to see how you respond to that. Because if you can't correlate to what I'm sharing with you, we're never going to have an opportunity to be successful, right? So I said to you earlier, like, inspect what you expect. I'm doing the same thing with myself, right? Like, I'm inspecting whoever I'm talking about to make sure they can meet our expectations as an organization. We take a lot of pride in being one of the great places to work. And if I feel like that doesn't mix with us in real time, it's probably not going to, right? Like, we want to make sure that our partners, we don't use the word vendor here, we use the word partners, that our partners match our core values.
Yeah, that's great. And I appreciate that. And I felt that in our first conversation, and it, people went, oh my God, I've got a meeting with Chris Martin, VP of WWT, and I get all scared and they want to make a big, presentation, but it's not about that. It's about, like Casey said, asking good questions, being honest. Here's what we do really well. Here's what we don't really do. Here's what we're not sure about. Having an honest and open dialogue. Like, you got another person on the end of the line, not a sale that you can close.
You did that very well, Edwin, right? Like, I think the openness was how we continue the conversation, right? And I think that's a huge part of the battle. Like, the trust needs to be there.
Yeah. You got to be trustworthy to be trusted. Okay. Last question here. Over to you, LJ. Again, I keep trying to ask you questions about technology, and you keep talking about people. Please, we got a lot of people on the line here who are like, give me some secret technology tool that can grow my revenue. If you have any of these kinds of tools.
My goodness, like specific technologies. So I'm really enamored with Ample Market right now. If you want sales enablement, what I love about this is it allows for connection and authenticity. Because remember, technology is not a replacement, right? AI is not going to replace you, but somebody that knows how to use it will. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a huge fan of Ample Market. I love what Glide is doing. Gong, transcription is going to change our industry. And the way we use it, the way we leverage the power of conversation, the way you transcribe it and then use all of those words to your advantage, I think that fundamentally will change our world. And so any sales enablement tool or enablement tool for outreach, enablement tool for retention, so your senses, your hearfishes of the world are going to be powerful tools. I love the funnel flow is a really good one as well. So if you're on LinkedIn or looking for tools that will enable consistent connection, I'm super excited about Rob says I talk about Ample Market all the time, like literally no joke, and it's because you can even set a campaign on people that comment on your content. And why is that important? Because what we want is frequency and relevancy, right? When somebody's reaching out to you, Chris, you said personalization. What is the opportunity there? Personalization with technology. So when you can find technology that will allow you to both personalize, will allow you to connect, and will allow you to do it at scale, those are the sticky products, right? So that's when those are things that I get excited about from a technology perspective.
Good stuff. Anyone else have any little favorite tools or shout outs to any revenue driving technologies? Anyone else? Casey, Chris? No?
You guys have mentioned Gong. I think Gong is
Gong's fire.
Yeah,
We use it. I kissed a lot of frogs to get to Gong. I went through Read. I went through Fathom, Fellow, Zoom, Microsoft Transcribe. Like I kissed all of them, and we landed on Gong, and it's the power of transcription. It's the power of how you transcribe, and it's the power of where it goes, and then again how you leverage it to continue the conversation, create connection.
I mean, if this is recorded and Gong doesn't put that on there.
There you
Gong
go.
Is Gong the next sponsor of the Quarterback Dadcast? Come on, Gong.
Yeah, Gong.
Yes.
Come
I'll
on.
introduce you to Ben Dickey. He's amazing.
Nice. I've got a couple of tools. One is an AI email marketing tool that I've been using called Volley, and it's super cool. You basically set it to do personalized research around certain things, like what people are talking about in their personal LinkedIn, company LinkedIn profiles, jobs that they're hiring for, and then it basically sends them a personalized notice that you XYZ, and then connects that to your product service offering. Email marketing has really fallen off a cliff in the last year. I'm sure everybody here has seen that. But this is, I think, the only way that might survive is highly personalized, unique campaigns. And the other one that I've had some success with is called Cleverly, and it's an automated LinkedIn outreach tool. So you get LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and then you kind of pick your people, and then it'll send connection requests along with messages kind of that are sent out to those people that you want to connect with. So those are 2 shout outs for me. Okay, we only got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to call on each of you briefly to give your kind of final thoughts, best advice. What is it that you want to make sure that the audience here knows about kind of how to drive revenue and sales? Maybe I'm going to start with Marcy. Yeah, you.
Right.
Yeah,
so
you.
my final shout out is I'd get any technology that could make Apple work with sound. No, I appreciate this conversation. It's been fun reading, and I definitely feel like when you're going forward in the marketplace with anything you do, making sure you have the right people on your team, you understand your value prop, and then you practice to get the right sales, because building trust doesn't come on the first try. You got to really earn their trust and earn the right. So there's a lot of great information I read today, and I appreciate everyone being a part of this panel and you guys joining us.
So good to have you, Marcy. Okay, LJ.
Well, it's called not iOS, Marcy. So if you want to be successful in technology, get rid of iOS. No, I'm just kidding. It's the whole Android iOS debate, right? No, what I want businesses to do to drive revenue is to figure out how you can enhance connection. And you can do it leveraging technology, but do not use it as a replacement. And look, I'm a technologist. I'm the first person to get on a demo and get excited and want to invest and want to join the board. And nothing makes me happier than seeing stuff like that. But we are still an industry of humans, and we need to treat them as such. So leverage your technology to enhance what it is you already do and set you apart from the rest, and you will win, especially in this market. Take the time and care to leverage your technology responsibly.
Okay, awesome. Chris?
I think it's going to be hard to top what they said, but I'll give it a whirl. My number one takeaway is really understand what you're trying to sell. Like, really understand what core value you bring to your customer. You said it earlier, Edwin, or maybe Lauren, the idea of being a specialist is not bad. Like, you don't need to be everything to everyone. Be something specific to someone. And I think understanding the value prop you bring to the table is as important as anything else.
Yeah, very good. Awesome. All right, bring us home, Casey.
Country roads, take me home. Let's do it. The last thing I'd say is a question I learned at age 41. I wish I would have learned this at age 23, and I'll put it in the chat. It's so as you're starting a meeting with a candidate as a recruiter, or a sales hiring manager, whatever it may be, you have your agenda. You know you're supposed to be talking about something, but before you go into that, say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, thank you for your time. Before we get started, describe what would be an ideal outcome for you in the 30 to 45 minutes we have today. Get outside your comfort zone, ask that question, and watch how many things you will learn about what they want to talk about versus what you want to talk about. And then once they say something, say, tell me more about that. and watch what happens, how authentically that conversation will grow because you're not being like everybody else.
Yeah.
He did that to me, by the way, in the QB Dadcast. It works. It's like I'm a real life example. So it works.
Awesome. This has been
Now
so
I
great.
know, Casey. Now I know.
This
All
is Casey's only got one trick in his bag, and he just keeps on doing the one trick over and over.
I'm
and
out of
over again.
business. Who's hiring?
And he wrote a whole book about that one trick, but you should check out Casey's book, check out his podcast. It's excellent. Chris works at WWT, one of the greatest IT solution providers in the world, or B2B reseller of IT solutions, hardware, software, technology, consulting services. Absolutely fantastic. Lauren Jones, if you need any kind of staffing, technology, consulting, you want a better strategy, you want to make sure people in technology are working together and all of that, go and check out Lauren Jones and her company. And then Marcy Stout, who cannot hear all of the things that I'm saying about her right now, but she could maybe read it like a couple of seconds after I'm saying it, but is one of the greatest executive coaches that you've ever had the pleasure of working with. She can help your individual executives or leaders, managers. She can help teams. Her and Casey, I think, have teamed up to do some sales team coaching and some masterminds. Just a fantastic group of people here. Thank you for your time today. Hopefully the audience got a few tidbits out of this. It was really fun hosting this and putting it together. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, all.
Bye.